Hello and welcome. Namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Air Marshal AP Singh discloses that the Indian Air Force destroyed 5 Pakistani fighters, including F-16s and Chinese JF-17, apart from hitting targets like radars, air bases and air defenses during Operation Sindhudur. India asserts Pakistan must be held accountable for its horrific human rights violations. The MEA says ongoing protests in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir are a natural consequence of Islamabad's oppressive approach. US Senate to vote later tonight on dueling plans to end the federal shutdown already into its 3rd day, though neither is likely to be passed. And SarahMullally becomes the new Archbishop of Canterbury, becoming the first woman to lead the Church of England in the 1400-year history of the role. Well, first up, ahead of Indian Air Force Day on the 8th of October, Air Chief Marshal Amarpreet Singh, during a press conference on Friday, lauded Operation Sindhudur as the highlight of the year, emphasizing its role in forcing Pakistan to seek a cessation of hostilities within 4 days. He detailed how the Indian Air Force decisively countered Pakistani aggression following the Pahalgam terror attack, destroying fighter jets.
I think that I must start with this Op Sindoor, because that was the highlight of this year gone by. In the aftermath of what happened in Pahalgam, we all know that we took a decision that we have to make them pay a price for whatever they have been doing, and to avenge that, killings of the innocents. Clear directive, clear mandate was given to the Indian Armed Forces, and Indian Air Force was the prime stakeholder in that, in terms of 2 major targets out of the 9 that were chosen towards terrorist camps.
On the losses suffered by Pakistan during Operation Sindhudur, the Air Chief Marshal said that operation dealt a heavy blow to Pakistan's Air Force. He revealed that Indian strikes targeted multiple airfields, key installations as well as fighter jets.
Our strikes, there have been radars at least 4 places, command and control centers at 2 places, runway, of course, damaged at 2 places. Then 3 of their hangars in 3 different stations have been damaged. And in that hangar, as well as on tarmac, we have signs of one C-130 class of aircraft, one AEW&C class of aircraft, and at least 4 to 5 fighter aircraft, most likely F-16, because that base happened to be F-16, which would have been under maintenance that time. Along with that, one SAM system, which has been destroyed. And so these are the strikes that, the destruction that has taken place on ground by our strikes.
Now, mass protests in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir continue unabated, with demonstrators condemning a state repression and demanding global intervention, as the protests entered the 5th consecutive day today. In the past 24 hours, Pakistan-occupied J&K has witnessed significant unrest despite the commencement of negotiations between the Pakistani government and the Jammu and Kashmir Awami Action Committee. In key developments, tensions escalated after reported civilian killings, leading to angry protesters in Sensa burning police vans and bulldozers. Protests intensified in Sensa, where demonstrators targeted state property, setting police vehicles and bulldozers ablaze in retaliation to the recent civilian deaths. Protesters have established a blockade at the Arja Bridge as well, disrupting movement and signaling widespread discontent towards the authorities. The town of Kotli observed a complete shutdown, with businesses and transport halted as a mark of protest against the state's actions. Major areas including Azad Patan and Parandari continue to witness ongoing demonstrations, with crowds voicing their demands and grievances despite the government's negotiation attempts. The overall situation remains tense, with civil unrest persisting and the populace expressing deep resentment against state authorities in multiple PoJK regions. Now, as soon as morning broke today, protesters intensified their agitation in PoK again. These images are from the Jhelum Valley in PoJK, where thousands of people have been marching from the Jhelum Valley towards the capital Muzaffarabad in protest against the Pakistani government. Meanwhile, Pakistani Journalists Union announced a black day to be observed on Friday after the assault on journalists at the Islamabad National Press Club on Thursday. According to Pakistan media reports, the lawyers community of PoJK was staging a peaceful protest at the press club when the police attacked them. Police high-handed action at the National Press Club has sparked nationwide outrage and calls for protests. Journalists' unions declared Friday as a black day, saying the assault was a direct attack on media freedom. Also, at a UN Human Rights Council side event titled Enforced Disappearance in Pakistan, Amplifying Voices Demanding Justice and Global Action, experts branded Pakistan as a rogue state for rampant extrajudicial killings, torture and abductions. Chongshi Joseph, Executive Director of the Center for Human Rights and Peace, decried the abuses as war crimes, urging UN sanctions and intervention to uphold the UN Charter and Anti-Disappearance Convention.
With the coming into existence and coming into force of the Convention on the against all enforced disappearances, I think it is a very serious crime. Pakistan is becoming alarming. It's really becoming alarming. When we get the statistics, extrajudicial killings, torture, detention in unknown places, irrespective of who they are, and all this detention with the consent and the acquiescence of the state means that the state is becoming a rogue state.
Pashtun activist Fazlur Rahman Afridi revealed over 6,500 confirmed Pashtun cases, with 300 verified by the UN but ignored by Islamabad. Afridi said more than 300 cases of enforced disappearances were verified and confirmed by the UN and communicated to Pakistan, but the government of Pakistan has not responded satisfactorily. Meanwhile, PoJK, Khyber, Sindh, Baloch activists also exposed Pakistan's rampant enforced disappearances, urging UN compliance.
We submitted, through special procedures to working group on enforced disappearances, more than 300 cases, which were really, verified and confirmed by the United Nations, and then communicated to the government of Pakistan. These, missing persons are, treated really badly. They are tortured, and most of them are killed. And then these people are dumped into mass graves, by the Pakistani army. Government of Pakistan not responded in a satisfactory way, and the UN was not satisfied with the answers of Pakistan, and they are still, on the list of the United Nations Human Rights Council. They haven't dropped it, and they will continue to put pressure on Pakistan to respond.
Meanwhile, Jamil Maqsood, leader of the United Kashmir People's National Party from Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, also denounced Pakistan as a rogue state, highlighting decades of oppression, human rights violations.
Pakistan is a rogue state. It has a history of oppressing people. Pakistan did not allow its own people, its federating units. For instance, the blatant human rights violations and refusing their fundamental human rights in Balochistan, in Sindh, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, in other areas, as well as in Gilgit-Baltistan and Pakistan-occupied part of Jammu and Kashmir. And now the people have realized that they are not ready to live with Pakistan. And the major aspiration and vision will of the people in all these regions are to reunite with the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir.
And India's Ministry of External Affairs has strongly condemned human rights violations in Pakistan-occupied J&K. Addressing the weekly press briefing in New Delhi, MEA spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal said, reports of protests and brutalities by Pakistani forces on civilians reflect Islamabad's oppressive approach and exploitation of the region's resources. He added that Pakistan must be held accountable for these violations.
Seen reports on protests in several areas of Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, including brutalities by Pakistani forces on innocent civilians. We believe that it is a natural consequence of Pakistan's oppressive approach and systemic plundering of resources from these territories, which remain under its forcible and illegal occupation. Pakistan must be held accountable for its horrific human rights violations.
On the situation in Bangladesh, MEA spokesperson said the interim government has failed to maintain law and order and often tries to shift blame elsewhere. He urged Dhaka to launch serious investigations into extremist violence, arson and land grabs targeting minority communities.
The interim government of Bangladesh, as you are aware and we've spoken about it on several occasions, is unable to maintain law and order situation in the country and has this habit of routinely trying to shift the blame elsewhere. It would do well for them to introspect and conduct serious investigations into the action of local extremists committing violence, arson and land grab against the minority communities.
Now, India's External Affairs Ministry has also said that the UNSC has approved travel ban exemptions for Afghanistan Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi to visit India.
All of you would have seen the exemption that has been granted by the UN Security Council Committee for the travel of Afghan Foreign Minister to New Delhi from 9 to 16th of October 2025. This particular information is there in the public domain.
Now, SarahMullally was on Friday named the new Archbishop of Canterbury, becoming the first woman to lead the Church of England, which can trace its origins to the Roman Empire and the global Anglican community. According to the UK government, her nomination by a committee tasked with finding a successor to Justin Welby, who stepped down earlier this year over an abuse scandal, has been approved by King Charles III. The Church of England is the mother church of global Anglicism. Mullally, who is 63 years old, becomes the church's 106th Archbishop of Canterbury, the first having been appointed in the late 6th century. In a statement, the former nurse acknowledged the huge responsibility of her new role, but said she feels a sense of peace and trust in God to carry me. Prime Minister Keir Starmer welcomed the appointment of the first woman to hold that role. Delivering her first speech on Friday since being appointed to the role, Mullally emphasized on the need to safeguard the vulnerables and foster a culture of safety and well-being for all.
As a church, we have too often failed to recognise or take seriously the misuse of power in all its forms. As Archbishop, my commitment will be to ensure that we continue to listen to survivors, care for the vulnerable, and foster a culture of safety and well-being for all. This will not be easy. Our history of safeguarding failures have left a legacy of deep harm and mistrust.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Friday visited the synagogue in Manchester, where an attack claimed 2 lives and injured 3 others on Thursday. Declared as a terrorist attack by the British police, the incident took place on a Jewish holiday known as Yom Kippur. Prime Minister Starmer, along with his wife, visited the location and interacted with the first responders. Starmer vowed to do everything in his power to protect Jews in Britain amid heightened fears of for the community following the attack. The US Senate will vote again on Friday on dueling Democratic and Republican plans to end a government shutdown now entering its 3rd day, though there is no sign that either plan will win passage. Lawmakers do not appear to have made any headway towards a deal, which would allow them to resume government funding, and Democrats and Republicans have spent the past several days blaming each other for their failure. The failure, of course, to keep the government funded beyond the 1st of October, the start of the fiscal year. Democrats say any funding package must also expand pandemic-era healthcare subsidies due to expire at the end of December, while Republicans say that issues should be dealt with separately. U.S. President Trump, meanwhile, has frozen billions of dollars earmarked for Democratic-leading states and threatened to fire more federal workers on top of the 300,000 he will have forced out by the end of the year. A prolonged shutdown could disrupt air travel, food aid for millions of Americans, and force federal courts to close. The longest shutdown lasted 35 days in 2018-19 during Donald Trump's first term in office. Trump has warned that federal workers could be fired and projects cut if the government shutdown continues.
There could be firings, and that's their fault, and it could also be other things. I mean, we could cut projects that they wanted, favorite projects, and they'd be permanently cut. So you could say, a lot of people are saying Trump wanted this, that I wanted this closing, and I didn't want it. But a lot of people are saying it because I'm allowed to cut things that should have never been approved in the first place, and I will probably do that.
Days after U.S. President Donald Trump secured Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's backing for a U.S.-sponsored peace proposal to end a nearly two-year-old conflict in Gaza, a Hamas official has said on Friday that the group still needs time to study the proposed plan. Earlier, President Trump gave Hamas an ultimatum of 3 to 4 days to accept his plan to end the conflict. The plan calls for a ceasefire, the release of hostages within 72 hours, Hamas's disarmament, and gradual Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. Now, this will be followed by a post-war transitional authority headed by Trump himself. World powers, including Arab and Muslim nations, have welcomed the proposal. Mohammad Nazzal, a member of the Hamas's political bureau, said in a statement on Friday that the plan has points of concern and we will announce our position on it soon. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. India's consumer market celebrates its highest Navratri festival sales in a decade. And after KL Rahul and Jurail, Ravindra Jadeja also notches up a ton on day 2 to take India's lead in the first test against the West Indies to 286 runs.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you.
That's exactly what save your.
You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, protests resumed on Friday in Madagascar's capital, Antananarivo, as youth clashed with police, challenging President Andry Rajoelina's rule and seeking broader reforms. Madagascar's President Rajoelina had dissolved the government led by Prime Minister Christian Nitse earlier this week in response to widespread youth-led protests over power and water shortages. The demonstrations, which started last month over deteriorating living conditions, have left 22 people dead, according to the UN. On Thursday, JNZ Madagascar protest movement announced a temporary suspension of the protests in Antananarivo. Meanwhile, President Rajoelina is expected to make a live address on his Facebook handle at 1000 GMT later today. The Net Zero Banking Alliance, a UN-backed initiative to drive carbon-neutral banking by 2050, announced its immediate closure Friday, reflecting a global retreat from climate commitments. Launched in 2021 with nearly 150 members, the alliance faced a membership exodus after Donald Trump's U.S. election victory, with 6 major U.S. banks, including JP Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs, withdrawing. Canadian and Japanese banks followed suit. The shutdown comes as Europe's climate policies waver amid tariff threats. NZBA's guidance on decarbonization targets remains available for individual banks. Climate activists have decried the move, while oil stocks have surged 3% after the announcement. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen at Italian Tech Week called for an AI-first strategy to revitalize Europe's automotive sector through self-driving cars, aiming to match US and Chinese advancements. She proposed a network of 60 Italian cities for pilot projects, emphasizing safety and local manufacturing. Bezos, Ferrari's Elkan and Stellantis leaders attended the event. The European Union launched a €500 million fund for AI mobility research, with Germany and France leading. Meanwhile, China's BYD has announced a €2 billion European plant, pressuring local firms. Let's now take a look at some other stories making the news around the world. A Taiwanese eatery has created special mooncakes for its furry clients to celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival. Celebrated across most of East Asia, the festival will fall on the 6th of October this year. The restaurant wanted to ensure that the pets visiting along with their owners can also feel the festive spirit. Visitors in Japan's Yamanashi prefecture were in for a visual treat as they ascended on Mount Minobu to witness Diamond Fuji. The name is driven from the fact that the mountain's peak dazzles brightly at the time of sunrise and sunset, lending it an appearance of a shining diamond. Tiny Western European country Luxembourg got its new Grand Duke after former Grand Duke Henry signed the act of abdication on Friday. The new Grand Duke Guillaume and his wife Grand Duchess Stephanie waved to crowds gathered under the balcony of the Grand Ducal Palace to welcome the royal couple. And back home, Chief of Army Staff General Upendra Dwivedi reviewed operational readiness in forward areas including Bikaner military station in West Indian state of Rajasthan on Friday. During the visit, the Army Chief commended the troops for their dedication, steadfast commitment to duty and effective multi-agency coordination. He highlighted the importance of technology absorption at all levels to sustain high operational readiness. He further underscored the need for seamless synergy between the armed forces, government agencies, industry, academia and society, adopting a whole-of-nation approach to defence preparedness in current times. India's consumer market celebrated its highest Navratri festival sales in a decade, propelled by the government's next-gen GST reforms. This slashed tax rates, making products more affordable. Maruti Suzuki reported a staggering 100% sales growth, delivering 1.65 lakh vehicles in the first 8 days, with a record 30,000 cars on day one. Mahindra & Mahindra's SUVs saw a 60% surge, while Hyundai's SUV sales hit 72% of total volume. Consumer electronic giants like Haier and LG reported double-digit growth, with Haier nearly exhausting Diwali stock of premium TVs. Retail footfalls doubled, and categories like large-screen TVs and smartphones led the charge. Analysts predict October sales to exceed expectations as well, buoyed by robust exports and a 40 to 45% festive season contribution to annual revenue. Time now to get some sports as well. In India ended day 2 of the opening test match against the West Indies in a commanding position at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad on Friday. India reached 448 for 5 at stumps, stretching their lead to 286 runs after centuries from KL Rahul, Dhruv Jurel and Ravindra Jadeja. Jadeja and Washington Sundar remain unbeaten till the end of play after both Jurel and Rahul hit centuries. With 3 centurions and a massive lead, India are in total control. The West Indies, depleted and struggling, facing a huge challenge of a difficult surface, leaving India strong favourites to seal the series with a 1-0 advantage in what has been a dominant display by the hosts. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get the latest news and updates on DD India from across the world as well, and nation, on its app. The app is available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code on the screen to download the app now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.